Welcome back, guys. In this video we're gonna clock our arrows, wrap them and fletch them. Stay tuned, a little bit of a longer video, but that's very important if you want to have good arrow flight. This is the archery series and this is arrow making video number 5. In the last episode we accurately cut our arrow shaft at the right length, we squared it, we installed the insert and the tip, and we're now ready to move to fletching. To do a good fletching we need to establish the clocking of our arrow. We get to this in a minute. The distance we want to put our vanes from the nock and the offset we want to give to the vanes with respect to the shaft longitudinal axle. So first, clocking, what is it and why it is important? Clocking is the natural direction our arrow wants to spin, to roll right out of the bow, and that's due to the torque that the twist in the string transmit to the nock when pressure is released during the shooting phase. If you go check video number 11 of the archery series, when we were installing the timing cord of the arrow rest, we showed that the cable gains about a quarter twist when you release pressure and then it loses when you put pressure back on the cable. Shooting is the opposite way. You put pressure and the string loses twist, and then it gives them back on the shooting phase when pressure is released, and that transmits a little bit of torque to the nock that spins our arrow in a certain direction out of the bow. Now, to make this very easy, just look at the string from the bottom cam going up to the top cam. If it twists counterclockwise, the arrow will come out of the bow turning counterclockwise, so left, looking at the arrow from the back. And that's what you're gonna find with 99% of the string on the market. Very few are twisted the other way around. So let's go test it. Let's mark our arrow right on top of the nock and let's shoot it 4, 5, 6 maximum feet away from the target, and let's see which way the mark that we did on top of the nock is gonna end up. As you can see, it ended up on the left, so the arrow, looking at the arrow from the back, went out of the bow and turned counterclockwise. And it is very important that we match that with the spin that the offset and helical of the vane wants to give to our arrow. Otherwise you will end up with an arrow that comes out of the bow trying to spin on one side and the vanes trying to recover and spin on the other side, and that could take up to 15 yards to do that to the vanes, and that's 15 yards of increased drag and loss of speed and stability. Now just a little word of advice on vane size and design, which we're gonna see in depth in the next video when we're gonna discuss the main principles of arrow flight. What are we looking for into our vanes? First, we want them to be light, because weight on the back of the arrow reduces the front of center and destabilizes the arrow. So you want your vanes to be light, and blazers 2 inches are only 20 grains for 3 vanes, and you want them to be aerodynamically efficient, meaning you want them to produce the maximum lift, which is what gives arrow stability, with the minimum drag, which is what takes away speed, energy from the arrow, and does not contribute to stability. In the next video, when we discuss arrow flight, we'll also see this false myth that goes around in the archery community. More drag on the back of your arrow means more stability. That's totally false. For the moment, let's just stick with blazer 2 inches, super light, super aerodynamically efficient, and then we'll dip a little bit more into arrow flight. Moving on, not super important, but still let's do it. Let's see how distant the fletching is gonna be from the nock in a way that there is no contact between the fletching and your chin. At full draw, let's have just somebody sign where the contact between the shaft and the chin ends. We have about 1.25 inches. We leave the fletching at 1 inch. I never put the fletching more than 1 inch from the nock. Even if there is a little bit of contact, I prefer a little bit of contact than sacrificing the fletching being as back as possible, which is of absolute importance for stability. So I never put fletching more than 1 inch into the shaft. Now on offset and helical, What's the difference? Offset is just the angle that you set on your fletching jig, and that's the angle at which you're gonna glue your vanes on a straight shaft. A vane that comes out with the tail on the right is gonna give you a left spin, and vice versa. Helical on the other side is the twist that the clamp of the fletching jig gives to the vane. Left to right torsion of the vane towards the tail gives you left spin, and vice versa. Now helical has got a little bit of offset already designed into the clamp, and it's gonna give you a little bit more efficient vanes, so 2 to 3 degrees offset on an helical are optimal, while if you have a straight clamp you wanna stay between 3 and 5 degrees offset. Now those are just numbers that we take as a reference, because the most important thing is that the vane base has got a good contact with the shaft. That's what's gonna dictate the angle at which we're gonna glue our vane. As you can see, both right and left helical clamp don't get good contact at 0 degree through all the length of the clamp, and they're already giving the vane quite a good offset even if the clamp is set at 0. Now with super thin arrows like the Easton Hex 6mm diameter, there's gonna be very little room to play around with the offset. But with Blazers 2 inches, very short vanes that use only the bottom part of the clamp, that has very little torque, very little helical, we're gonna have enough room to get our 2 degrees offset and good shaft contact. Back to our shaft, let's remove the nock and let's remove the ugly thick wrap it comes with. I don't like it, it's heavy, it's just for aesthetics, and we don't want any extra weight on the back of our arrow, which is the stabilizing. I do everything with the foldable knife, also removing vanes, but if you want to buy a stripping tool, it's very useful, and Zip Strip is the best. I'm linking it in the description. Let's clean the shaft with alcohol, remove all the glue residues, and then let's get one of our boning wraps. Of course, when you buy them, be careful and buy them the exact size to match the circumference of your shaft. You don't want it to overlap and compromise the adherence of the vanes. Put it on a mouse pad with the glued side upward, align an arrow, and then push and roll on top of the wrapping the arrow shaft, and you'll get a perfect wrapping. And we can finally get to fletching. Let's get our Bohning Pro Class fletching tool. $50, super effective, you don't need anything else, link is in the description. Use the 3 vane mark on the dial. Bohning Pro Class fletching jig comes set on the 3 vane fletching. If you need to change it to 4, you have the inserts in the package, and line it up with the 3U mark on the shaft holder. 3 vane fletching, cock vane up. You need to buy aside about $20 the left clamp, which is what we're using and which is what you need. Place a vane at the 1 inch mark. We want our vanes no more than 1 inch from the nock, and adjust the bottom offset in a way that you have the base of the vane in perfect contact with the shaft. You'll see that it's about 0 degrees. What you're looking for is for the 2 flaps that make the base of the vane to perfectly match the round shape of the shaft. If you had the clamp at the wrong angle, you'll see that one of the 2 flaps will rise up from the shaft. Repeat the procedure with the upper offset setting, and you'll see that at about 2 degrees left, you'll get perfect contact of the front base of the vane with the shaft. Double check that the back of the vane is still in perfect contact with the shaft. Do minor adjustments if they're needed, and as said, with 0 degrees on the back and 2 degrees left on the front, so 2 degrees total offset, we get perfect contact along the whole base of the vane, and we have enough offset to give our arrow the right spin rate. Remove the clamp, put a little bit of glue, a tiny line of glue inside the vane base groove. Don't put too much glue, you don't want a lot of glue to come out of the side of the base of the vane, but you want all the contact surface between the base of the vane and the shaft when you push the vane against the shaft to be covered in glue. You don't want air bubbles inside. Push the vane against the shaft for about 15-20 seconds, hold it in there, and then remove the clamp, clean the excess glue on the side. Be very gentle, you don't want to risk moving the base of the vane. Turn the knob up until it clicks in the next position. Put another vane in the clamp and repeat the procedure. And the same for the third vane. After about 10 minutes, remove the arrow from the fletching jig and put a little tip of glue at the beginning and at the end of each vane base to make the vane a little bit more resistant when it passes through animals or targets. A properly glued vane is gonna stay on the arrow for years with no problems. Repeat the procedure for each vane and let it dry for another about 10 minutes. On the fletching jig, if you don't need it, or if you want to fletch another arrow on a table with the vanes sticking out, not touching anything. The final result should look like this. The vane properly attached through all the length, nice offset with the bottom on the right, nice helical twist with the bottom on the right. So the vane is gonna properly spin left out of the bow. As usual, thanks for watching. In the next video, for those who are interested, we're gonna explain the physics of arrow flight, and all the things that we discussed in these 5 videos of arrow building will make much more sense for you. As usual, please don't forget to subscribe to help the channel grow.